We're back.
Hello, Dave.
Well,
you want to sue me?
Let's see, we're not in Michigan, so I think we're okay. We're in Virginia, so that's really good.
Oh,
But
you never know what this one's going to find and come up with.
I've been said to be non-patriotic because I don't like to watch the news. It's not like I don't know what's going on. I let my husband siphon through these things, and then I ask him. But I do, I can read headlines and say, what idiot thought of that? So,
that could be a segment all its own. What idiot thought of that?
That is true. We could start our own little movie show.
Doing the last 5 minutes of our podcast on like on the last one.
Well, see, that's what it works into.
Okay,
so some other stuff. The end of June in Michigan. Okay, the Michigan House, passed a bill that if you use the incorrect pronoun, okay, it's a felony.
They're going to take your rights away for calling somebody a he or a she.
And fineable up to $10,000. Now, if they said July 2nd, this was sort of from like skeptical. If you use the wrong gender to intentionally aggravate someone. Now, how do you do that intentionally? If somebody looks like a boy and you say he, and I'm offended. So now we go back to being offended because you've used the wrong pronoun. Doesn't seem right to me. Could be an honest mistake. How are you offending them?
Well, it's easy to be offended by anything nowadays.
Well, true. Yes.
But see, my mind and your mind cannot wrap around and be offended by what you were born with.
Sticks and stones will hurt your bones, but words cannot hurt you.
Unless you're called a different pronoun.
Walk away, man. Walk away. This is like telling somebody, I know you have a temper.
Well, I mean, I know that there have been instances where people have just tried to avoid calling the person a pronoun because they didn't believe in the pronoun thing. So they would either call them by their name, or they would call them something else. And there have been people that have gotten in trouble for that. And I'm like, but you called them by their name. You might not have used the pronoun, but you wouldn't use the.
It?
I guess it would
they
not
were
been
ahead of their time, though.
It would have not been it then. Nowadays, would it? I guess if they make the Addams Family now, I guess it's not a pronoun. So yeah, I guess we'd have to figure out what to make it to be because
no one ever knew what.
But
it
a
was.
felony.
A felony.
They're going to take your take your guns, take your rights.
And
you can't vote anymore, and fine me
because you used the wrong. Now. Remember the podcast we did with how many different?
Yes.
The small one was 70-some different pronouns.
Or genders.
And genders, right? Genders. So how do you do pronouns for all those different genders?
Hey, stupid.
Are you a demo gender? Hey, Stunaz. You could call them Chicadias. Hey, Chicadia. Which is dandelion.
Hey, Rosebud. Come here, Rosebud. Come here and talk to me.
So you can get out of all of that. It's like,
come here, Daisy.
Go look up this word. Chicadia. Mm-hmm.
I mean.
Pasta fazool. You want to be a fazuli? What do you call them? Beans? You want to be some beans? How? Pasta fazool. You want to be a pea?
I wonder if dumb is subject to
all kind of trouble.
But it's not subjective to a pronoun, is it?
Hey, stupid, right? People say, you call me stupid. Well, okay. So you want.
But I didn't call you he or she.
That's right.
So sue me.
So look it up. Or you could just be a moron. Or we could just call you, hey, ignorant. Oh, well, ignorant means you don't know any better, so maybe you don't. We could have a lot of fun with our words, couldn't we?
Well, you could if everybody didn't get so darn offended by it, right?
I know.
I mean, it's really ridiculous.
I don't know how, and I pity them right now, teachers are going to be able to exist. I mean, you could get in trouble if you just said something and they took it the wrong way. You didn't mean it that way.
Well, the school systems have changed so much, but I will bring this into now because talking about all this stuff.
Right into school. See, who did
Governor, and she did it greatly. I mean, but Governor Glenn Youngkin, and it says that this was, I think it was 6 days ago, a statement on VDOEs, which is the Virginia Department of Education, updated policies and stuff. And it says all children in Virginia deserve to have a parent engaged in their life and to be treated with dignity and respect. And they're updating the model policies to reaffirm his administration's continued commitment to ensure every parent is involved in conversations regarding their child's education, upbringing, and care, which is great. Because, I mean, teachers at school should not have input on if your child wants to transgender. That should be a parent child.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't care who you are. I mean, the parent has the right to be involved in this because this is a big decision. Yes. And let's see, I'm trying to see. Okay, in this one, all right, that one doesn't have it, but let me see. I'm trying to.
I mean, he got elected basically because of the educational system problems in Northern Virginia.
Yes.
And having gender neutral bathrooms that created problems for teenage girls.
Yes.
And in more than one school because they took the boy that was the offender and moved him to a different school and he did it again. And the father was the one, the girl's father literally got arrested when he confronted the Board of Education. And he got arrested. I mean, for trying to defend his daughter.
See, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
But that's just not.
So he is all about parents, and see, and that's where Terry McAuliffe went down. I mean, when he said that parents shouldn't be involved, that definitely that just put a nail in his coffin. That's because people want to be, especially down here.
You see, when you look at that, all right, when you say the parents don't have the right, in other words, you're saying the parents don't know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And the school system does.
And they don't.
Well,
they don't have the right to help your child decide that.
And I come from a family in education. I taught. My sister taught. She was assistant superintendent of school. She was a principal. My cousins have been teachers. And good teachers. Ones that didn't impart values to that. Now, you don't want to overstep your boundaries and assume that a parent doesn't know what they're talking about. They live with a child.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, maybe there are parents that need some help.
Yes.
But see, the operative word here is
kids that need help.
Help.
And children need help.
That's right. But you don't take their rights away from them, which is what he was saying. You as parents do not have rights. The school has the right to do what they want. And Youngkin came across and said, no, parents have the right. You don't want to get me started on my thoughts on schools.
Schools are there to educate. Schools are there to me to educate, and they're there to help the students. So there are times when I know when I was coming along, and back in the day, you're looking at the age difference here now. Okay, so many years ago, there were kids that needed help because Back then, a lot of times people couldn't go home if they were pregnant, or if they had been sexually assaulted, or if things had happened. The world is a little bit different now. And there are things that, that like
There are avenues that these
there are
kids can go
avenues
to.
that they can use now, but that in no way should take away from a parent's right to know what's going on in their child's life.
Exactly. And here again, we go back to the words, schools can help.
A liaison, maybe,
Yes,
right?
they are a bridge to help. Now, I know that when I took classes in college to teach, you did not teach your values. I couldn't go in there and say, I believe that you guys should all go to this church. You taught the subject matter. Now, I don't know what's really going on in education right now, but you know that they're bringing in their baggage.
Yes.
Okay. Maybe if they did less of that and more of what they were hired to do, we wouldn't have problems in math and reading and English.
Exactly.
Which we are having a big problem.
And they're trying to make math and reading and English racist. And it's not racist.
It's not racist. Hello.
I mean, you're trying to get your child and the children that are in the school to where they can participate in life outside of school and get jobs and perform in society and you're trying to make them functional adults.
But if you take that functionality away from them, they're dependent upon someone else. And that person they're dependent on will control you. You see what I'm saying? And that's where all of this comes down to. There are certain people who want to control you because they have the knowledge. They don't want you to have the knowledge. It's sort of like developing another caste system. You see?
But education itself has gotten away from helping the child. It's gotten very political.
Oh, yes.
And it should not be. It should not be that way. It should, but everything is political in the system as well.
And it has gotten. I remember when I was teaching, and there was politics because you had unions, and I hated the unions. But you didn't have to be in the union, but you still had to pay the union dues because they represented you. So as long as I'm going to be in the union, I'm going to be vocal about it. And they would contribute to certain politicians who would, favor the teachers. But in the meantime, you had to teach your subject.
That's what you're being paid to do.
That's what you're paid to do. Not to go off on a tangent and bring in, let's say, your own bend to the subject. All right? You can't do that. Now, I taught biology, I taught earth science, I taught environmental science, I taught unified science, I taught 7th grade science, 8th grade science. And in any time, you could bring in your own little thoughts if you wanted to. But you shouldn't. Because science is based on what somebody has experimented, facts and things that you can bring forward. But are there some little things that are kind of interesting that you could bring in that makes people think? You can. For instance, about 2,000 years ago, give or take, there was a conjunction of stars and planets that made us a big star in the sky. That's a fact. Take it for what it is, but that's a fact. Look it up. That was a fact. That really happened. What created the whole Big Bang Theory? Don't know that either. That's a fact too. So that's not my value system. That's something that I don't know the answer to. Maybe somebody someday will. But I'm not telling you that you have to believe this and this is what happened. And that's because that star was there, then so-and-so was born.
See, I've always believed that education should get you thinking outside the box.
That's right.
You should be taught to free think. And then you can have the debate and the discussion of, okay, well, how about this? But then it allows you, but if I teach you just one way, teaching you to like SOLs, I hate SOLs, because you're just teaching the SOL. And I mean, what about the kid that has got a question or wants to, well, hey, let's think about this. But if you don't have time to go outside the box because you're teaching just to the SOL so everybody can pass it, then where education and teaching to me and learning is about expanding your mind. And I mean,
keep it open.
Yes. I mean, and then hopefully then they will be able to go research and figure out. But I mean, if you don't teach them the basics on how to do this, and they won't ever be, and they will always learn only to listen to what they know.
You could have a class. I remember one class is, how do you teach somebody to be creative or to think? How do you teach that thought?
Especially if you've not been allowed to think.
That's right. Maybe you give them a question here, or you do something and let them figure it out. We were visiting our grandson on Friday. We do that quite often. And he loves science. It's like, ooh, yes. So here's a little experiment that you can do, and it's a lot of fun. If you have a glass gallon jug, did I tell you about it before?
I don't know.
I ought to bring it in and do it right on the podcast. And you take the glass, nice and clean, all right? You put a little bit of water in it, and you shake it up, and you have a flashlight. So you need your equipment. You need a glass gallon jug. You need maybe a cup of water. Put it in the jug. You need some matches, or matches and paper, doesn't matter. You need matches, but you need something. And you need a flashlight.
Okay.
And you need a lot of hot air. So you say, okay, so here's all the ingredients. Now watch what I'm going to do. So you put the water in the jug, shake it around, take your match, light it, blow it out, put it in, watch the smoke. Okay, turn the lights off. Okay, pop the lights off, take your flashlight and go, and then release. And gee, there's a cloud in that jug. And then you push out, the cloud disappears. So you've given them the ingredients. Now, what did I use? And what created that thing in there? And what is that? It's a cloud. So what are the ingredients to make a cloud?
Moisture.
You need moisture. You needed particulate matter, smoke. And by doing, I put pressure on it that forced all the water out. But as soon as I released it, there was low pressure and all the water condensed on the particles. It's so much fun. And all you need to do is have those things. And then say, okay, what did you see? What happened? Figure it out. So it was the moisture, the particulate matter, and my pressure of just blowing in the jug or releasing the pressure. Low pressure, high pressure. Fun experiment. Easy experiment. But let them start thinking.
Yeah. See, I think kids don't think enough right now.
You need to do some of those things. It's lots of fun things like that. I said to him, well, if you have a needle, get a glass of water, okay? Get a Kleenex, put the needle on the Kleenex, and slowly put the Kleenex in the water. Now, when the Kleenex gets wet, what's going to happen to it? It's going to sink. Now, water has a little surface tension. And the needle, because it's spread out, will actually lay across that surface tension of water.
Okay.
Because it's spread itself out. And there's just enough surface tension to hold it up. Now, if you turn it the other way and go like it goes right to the bottom. Because it's metal. Fun experiments. Letting them think about the different things that you can do. You can get a tube I was trying to think of how I could find a tube like that, but you can get a lot of tubes that you can see through, and you put, usually it's Dawn detergent that we did it. And then you get different types, size of beads, and start dropping it with a stopwatch to watch how the beads fall through this and how the sizes will go faster and the small sizes go slower. All of these little things that you could do to get them to think and say, gee, what is the relationship between this and this and this and this? Fun things.
That's cool. Well, that's
I
what we
love
need.
neuroscience.
That's what we need to do. The parents need to be involved, which parents, grandparents, you need to be involved in your education, in your child's life. Know what's going on in their life. So, because if you don't influence them, somebody else will.
And it may not be the
It
right
may not be
way
the person that you
you
want.
want. That's right.
And if you know somebody that, say, maybe isn't being influenced in a good way, then you need to try to help them. Maybe you can be a mentor in a different way. I mean, you can't step on parents' toes.
No, you got to ask.
You can't, even as a mentor, you can't step on a parent's toes, and you should not. But you can still pour into a kid's life in a different way.
Yeah.
But it should always go through as long as that child is at home, the parent really does have control over. I mean, they do.
And
It
if
is their
there's-
responsibility and their control. But it's it's children's lives. They're so precious, and their minds are so precious, and we need to expand them and help them to grow, and because their minds can hold so many things. It really
It's so
can.
much fun. The other thing he wanted to do is learn how to kick. And I said, what? Your mom can teach you that. She's had a black belt. She can do all of that too. She can teach you. He said, I'll take your class. Like, okay, so lesson number, here's a roundhouse kick. And for his age, I mean, I said, we had 4-year-old kids that we taught stranger awareness to and all these things, and gave them this empowered them. And I used to send, when we had kids classes, I'd send them home and say, okay, think of a good self-defense that you think might work, and then bring it back. And if it's really good, we'll share. So, and some of them would. And we would share. Because if you can do it with an adult, then you're doing good, kid. So this gets them creative.
I don't want robot kids.
No, I can think of the little kids that were so cute, and they were just having fun, but learning with fun. And I had a lot of fun teaching science, because I loved having to watch them just sort of look at me like, and I played tricks on them every now and then. I'm like, oh, you broke that. I said, well, I'll have to find out how much that cost. And then I'd laugh with them and explain that what I did was trick them. I gave you a bead that had a hole in the center, so it floated, it wouldn't go down. But they'll always remember that. And they'll be thinking about that, saying, because maybe someday, who knows? You ever buy a carpet? Right. Went to buy a carpet one time, and the gentleman said, now, this has so many loops per square. Do you understand that? I said, yeah, it's called density. He looked at me and like, it's density. You're telling me how much fiber and loops are in a little cubic centimeter. That's what you're telling me. And he just sort of looked at me and went, I understand. I do understand. So if that number is nice and high, I got really good carpet. If it's pretty low, I got grass.
And we're going to be buying new carpet and soon. It's not going to last, right?
It's not going to last. It's going to wear right out. Anyway.
We're free thinkers.
We do. We just go on and on about so many.
And I don't know how we got from going
Schools?
going to
Pronouns?
going to being charged and stuff down to
Density of carpet.
density of carpet. You never know. It's the way we roll, though.
Tread
isn't it?
on me.
All right,
It
guys.
leads right into that.
With that, we're gonna get out of here. But thanks and have a great day.
Bye.
Bye bye.
So